Welcome to the Hindu Current Affairs for Beginners, a unique initiative by Law Excellence IAS Academy. We have named our initiative as CORE. In this CORE, we will be discussing about various concepts, terms, constitutional provisions, schemes, institutions and international organizations that are in line with UPSC syllabus, in order to help the student understand the Hindu article and to help him read the Hindu newspaper with ease. Our main motto to launch this initiative is this CORE will be a supplementary to daily editorial analysis by Dr. Rambabu sir. But due to some reasons, daily editorial analysis, it didn't get continued, but now sir is going to be back with his new initiative known as DEEP, Daily Editorial Enrichment Program. So the CORE is going to be enhanced in order to be in line with Daily Editorial Enrichment Program by Dr. Rambabu sir. So that this CORE video, where we are going to see the basic concepts in various articles, will help you to understand Rambabu sir's perspective videos. Now let's start our today's session. Before entering into our session, first let us see answers for the questions from our yesterday's video. The first question is, who among the following publishes Global Environment Outlook Report? It is the United Nations Environment Program. The next question is, with regard to forex swaps, consider the following. It is a buy or sell trade in which banks place bids to sell their excess dollars to the Reserve Bank of India. Yes, this statement is correct because now the Reserve Bank of India has brought in a new tool to infuse liquidity into the market, and that tool is this forex swaps. What RBI will do here is, now we know that many banks, all the banks will have dollars with them. So banks are going to deposit these dollars with RBI in exchange of rupees. And here banks will park their dollars with RBI with a condition that they will buy back these dollars after a defined period of time, that is 3 years. So by doing this, RBI is infusing money into the market. So this statement is correct. The second statement is, it is a tool to enhance liquidity in the system for a predetermined period of time, and that period is 3 years. So even this statement is correct. As both the statements are correct, the answer here is C, both. So now let's start today's session, and these are all the topics that we are going to cover in our today's video. The link for the notes of this video is available in our description below. Our first article is RTI Trump's Official Secrets Act says Supreme Court. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. Now, before seeing into the topics, first let us see the background for this issue. This entire controversy has hit the limelight on February 8 when the Hindu newspaper has published a report showing some extracts from the Ministry of Defense, and that report is related to this Rafale deal. And this report says that while finalizing the Rafale deal, government did not follow this procurement process. Government failed to follow the procurement process, and most importantly, the report states that even after opposition from the Ministry of Defense as well as Law Ministry, the government went ahead with its decision to buy 36 Rafale fighter jets. This is what is published in the Hindu's report on February 8th. Then, followed by this report, the government told the Supreme Court that the documents related to this Rafale fighter jet were stolen from the Defense Ministry, and the government has threatened to charge the newspaper that it is responsible for theft of crucial information and it will show the Hindu newspaper with this Official Secrets Act of 1923. And the Supreme Court in its judgment has told that the Right to Information Act of 2005 will override this Official Secrets Act. And they have clearly pointed out that public interest will outweigh in cases of corruption as well as human rights violation. So it is the public interest which is what matters here, because we have formulated an act known as Right to Information Act, according to which the information regarding the public bodies has to be provided to the citizen in order to bring in transparency and accountability among the public bodies. This Right to Information Act was brought in. So, when there is a public interest, then this right to information will prevail over this Official Secrets Act. Then what about this Official Secrets Act? What is it saying? This act was an outcome of colonial attitude. This Official Secrets Act was enacted by the British in 1923 in order to suppress the voice of many nationalist newspapers, that is, in order to suppress the press. So what and all this covers? It will cover the cases of spying, sedition, along with any anti-national activity that can endanger the unity and sovereignty of the country. That means, along with the spying and sedition, giving secret information to the enemy country or its agents, or communicating with the foreign agents and collecting or possessing or entering into the prohibited areas for the armed forces, all these will be considered as official secrets, and if anybody does this, a case will be filed on them. And this law has a provision of fine or a jail term of 3 to 14 years or both if a person is found guilty for any of these acts under this Official Secrets Act. And there is a section 5 of this act which says that even sharing the information or retaining any information in any form, like as a sketch or a plan or a model or a note or an article, document or information which is related to, or if it is used in a prohibited place, will come under this Official Secrets Act. The next article is China swears by consensus on blacklisting of Masood Azhar. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of international affairs. So, here as we have been discussing about this UNSC 1267 committee, in our past videos, this is an extension to it. Post Pulwama attack, Jaish-e-Mohammed, a terror outfit organization, has claimed responsibility to this Pulwama attack. Then India has took this issue to UNSC to list Jaish-e-Mohammed's founder Masood Azhar as a designated terrorist under the UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee list. So, if a person or an entity, already Jaish-e-Mohammed is considered as a terror outfit, it is a terrorist organization, but its founder is not designated as a terrorist according to this UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. So now India took this issue to UNSC. But for UNSC to list a person or an entity as a designated terrorist organization or terrorist, there is a process. UNSC, all the Security Council committees, has 15 members. Out of these 15 members, there are permanent members as well as non-permanent members. And these permanent members are China, UK, US, Russia and France. These 5 members were having a special privilege in decision making. That privilege is known as veto power. That means if at least one member is not satisfied with the decision taken by this committee, then that decision will not go ahead. That is this veto power. So the other non-permanent members are 10 members are non-permanent members, and this membership will be rotating among the members of United Nations Security Council. So as we said that these permanent members were having this veto power. That means using this veto power for any decision, they can put a technical hold. If at least one country is not in accordance with the decision taken by the committee, then it can put a technical hold. What is meant by this technical hold? Once a technical hold is brought up, then the issue cannot be brought back to this United Nations Security Council for 3 more months. Only after 3 months, again this issue can be brought back to this committee. That is what is meant by this technical hold. So now, what is the issue? We have seen that India is bidding to put Jaish-e-Mohammed's founder Masood Azhar into this UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee list. But one of the 5 permanent members, China, has put a hold again to India's bid to put this person under a designated terrorist status. So after blocking the United Nations ban on Masood Azhar, what China has said is that it will shift its status in designating this person as terrorist only after having a discussion and reaching an agreement between these 3 countries. Along with India and Pakistan, it will have a triangular formula, and based on that discussion, it will come into an agreement whether to designate this person as a terrorist or not. Next article is Bannerghatta Ecosensitive Zone curtailed. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of environment. So from this article, what is important for us is we should know what is this eco-sensitive zone and where is this Bannerghatta National Park is located. First, let us see this. Bannerghatta National Park is in Bangalore of Karnataka state. Now, let us see about the concept of this eco-sensitive zones. First, what are these eco-sensitive zones? According to the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, there is no mention of this word eco-sensitive zones. But there is a section in this act which is section 3 subclause 2 clause 5, which says that the central government can restrict certain areas from industrial activities to be carried on. And there is another section known as section 5 subclause 1. According to this section, the central government can prohibit as well as restrict the location of industries. Not only they can restrict the operation of industries or their process, but they can also restrict or prohibit their location of these industries based on some parameters like biological concerns of that area, that is biological diversity, and based on the allowable limits of concentration of pollutants. If we had standards for the pollutants, by considering even this, by considering how much pollutants that industry will emit, by taking that into consideration, even that industry's location can be prohibited or restricted in that area. And the other criteria is whether the land that is being used by that industry is environmentally compatible or not. Environmentally compatible means, is it going to dislocate the people who are residing there, or it is going to affect the biodiversity of that location, or is it going to lead deforestation? And another criteria is how far the location of that industry is from the protected areas. Protected areas means national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So based on this criteria, according to this section 5 clause 1 of Environment Protection Act of 1986, the central government can restrict and prohibit the location of an industry. So, though it is not explicitly mentioned the term eco-sensitive zone, these two clauses, these two sections have provided way for the government to declare eco-sensitive zones, or there is another name for it which is known as ecologically fragile areas. And the Ministry of Environment and Forest has defined some criteria and notified certain areas as ecologically sensitive zones. Now we'll see what is that criteria to be designated as an ecologically sensitive zone. These are the areas within 10 kilometers around the protected areas, national parks and wildlife sanctuary. The area around the national parks, the area within 10 kilometers around the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries is considered as an eco-sensitive zone. But area beyond this 10 kilometer, if that particular area is ecologically important and it is a sensitive corridor, then even that area will be considered as ecologically sensitive zone. The aim for bringing this ecologically sensitive zone is in order to regulate certain activities around these national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, in order to minimize the negative impacts of those activities in this eco-sensitive zones. Here we have said that the aim of this eco-sensitive zone is to regulate some activities around these national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in order to minimize the negative impacts. So, what are the activities that are allowed and what are the activities that were prohibited in these areas? Now, let us see what are the activities that were prohibited in an eco-sensitive zone. Here, commercial mining, sawmills, industries that cause pollution, that is air, water, soil, noise pollution, and establishment of major hydroelectric projects, commercial use of wood, tourism activities like hot air balloons, like blowing hot air balloons over the national park, and discharge of effluents or any solid waste or producing hazardous substances. All these were prohibited in an eco-sensitive zone. Then what are the things that were regulated here? Deforestation, felling of trees is regulated. Here, establishing hotels and resorts, commercial use of natural water, erecting the electric cables, and drastic change of agricultural system like adopting heavy technology, pesticides and widening of roads were all under the control of government. Then what are the activities that are permitted in an eco-sensitive zone? The ongoing agricultural and horticultural practices, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, using the renewable energy sources and adopting green technology. All these were permitted in these eco-sensitive zones. So, to put it simply, we can say that this eco-sensitive zone will act as a transition zone. This is going to act as a transition zone. This is the national park. the area around 10-kilometer area around a national park is considered as an eco-sensitive zone. So here the normal activities were being going on. Here it is going to this eco-sensitive zone is going to act as a transition zone from areas of high protection. This national park is fully protected to areas involving less protection. So if we go back into our main Hindu article here, last year, that is in 2018, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has issued a notification to reduce this eco-sensitive zone of Bannerghatta National Park so that it will open up more areas for mining and commercial development around the rapidly urbanizing Bangalore city. Due to the objections from the citizens, now this idea to reduce this eco-sensitive zone has been stopped. The next article is Public Health Measures for West Nile Virus Reviewed. This article comes under GS Paper 2 under the topic of Issues Related to Health. So, from this article, now let us see about this West Nile virus. What is this West Nile virus? This West Nile fever is caused by a virus known as West Nile virus. This West Nile fever is a zoonotic disease. It is a zoonotic disease. Zoonotic diseases means these are the diseases that will get naturally transmitted. They were naturally transmissible from animals to human beings. So, this will cause West Nile fever. So, what are the hosts for this virus? Birds are the natural hosts for this West Nile virus. According to the World Health Organization, this West Nile virus will get transmitted to human beings through bites from infected Culex mosquitoes. This mosquito bite will infect the human beings because these mosquito will get infected when they feed on these infected birds. So horses and humans are the dead end hosts. Mainly horses and humans are dead end hosts. What is meant by this dead end hosts? That means when they become infected, they will not spread this infection. There is no human to human transmission from casual contact. This West Nile virus will not get transmitted from human to human and from a horse to a horse. So both this horse and humans were dead end hosts of this West Nile virus. Then what are the symptoms of this virus? It includes fever, headache, tiredness, body aches, vomitings. This can even cause neurological diseases in human beings. This was first isolated in a woman in the West Nile district of Uganda, and from where it has got its name from the West Nile river. This West Nile virus is commonly found in the countries of Africa, Europe, Middle East, West Asia and North America. These are the places where this West Nile virus is commonly found. Then what about the treatment? Is it available? In case of horses, vaccines were available to treat this West Nile virus, but not in case of human beings. There is no vaccine to cure this West Nile virus in case of humans. The next article is a climate vulnerability index for India on the annual. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of environment. From this article, now let us see what is this climate vulnerability index and what is this entire article is all about. From the prelims point of view, what is important here is the particulars of this climate vulnerability index. So let us see the context of this article. The Department of Science and Technology is going to start a study in order to assess what are the climate risks that are being faced by the states of India. So it is going to start a study based on the climate risks that are being faced by the states of India. And this assessment will be followed by another assessment of what are the global warming risks. What are the global warming risks faced by 12 Himalayan states? Here, these climate risks are for the entire country. Then, what are the global warming risks posed by these 12 Himalayan states? So, how they are going to do this? They are going to assess this based on this climate vulnerability index. Last year in 2018, the IIT at Mandi and Guwahati along with IISc Bangalore, they have coordinated with the authorities of these 12 Himalayan states to bring in a common methodology, a uniform methodology to determine how the districts, how these states are equipped with the infrastructure to deal with this climate change, to deal with the various risks of the climate change. Based on this, there is an outcome known as vulnerability index, and this index was prepared by them for each of the states based on their district level data. And this vulnerability is a measure of the risks a district will face due to its geographical as well as socio-economic situations. These are the 8 key parameters based on which this climate vulnerability index is going to be measured. Here we can see we have said that here this index will be measured based on its geographical as well as socio-economic situations. So we can see here the geographical factor, percentage of area under forest, and what is the yield variability of food grain, what is the population density. These are all the geographical factors. And if we see the socio-economic situations, like what is the female literacy rate, infant mortality rate, percentage of population below poverty line, and average man days under this Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and area under the slope if it is above 30%. Using these parameters, this index will be measured on a scale ranging from 0 to 1. 1 indicates the highest possible level of vulnerability, whereas 0 indicates the least. So at the top scale, among the Himalayan states, Assam is on top place of vulnerability. But this doesn't mean that the states with a lower score are safe, because some districts in Uttarakhand is ranked at 0.45 and it is at the lower end of the scale. But these districts in Uttarakhand are more vulnerable than the districts in Assam. And different factors will contribute to a particular state's vulnerability. If we take the case of Arunachal Pradesh, here the key factors of vulnerability for Arunachal Pradesh is low female literacy rate and high percentage of population below the poverty line. And whereas in Nagaland, the key issues are loss of forest cover as well as a steep slope and high yield variability. So based on these factors, these different factors will contribute to a particular state's vulnerability. The next article is Biomedical Waste. The National Green Tribunal warns states. That article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of environment, and the subtopic here is pollution. So this article is about the National Green Tribunal has asked all the states to submit the reports regarding the management of biomedical waste. Biomedical waste management reports to the Central Pollution of Control Board. So, from this article, from the prelims point of view, we should know what is this biomedical waste, as well as we should know about these organizations like National Green Tribunal and Central Pollution Control Board. First, let us see what is this biomedical waste. Biomedical waste is any solid or any liquid waste. It is any solid or liquid waste including its container and any intermediate product that is generated during the diagnosis or treatment or immunization of human beings or animals or research activities. It is any solid or liquid waste including its container that is used during the diagnosis or treatment of human beings or animals or in research activities. This biomedical waste is a hazard to the environment because of two reasons. One is this biomedical waste is toxic in nature, and the other reason is its ineffectivity. This biomedical waste will consist of human anatomical waste like organs, tissues, body parts, waste shards like needles, syringes, scalpels, broken glass, discarded medicines, cytotoxic drugs, liquid waste from any infected areas. These all will comprise of a biomedical waste. In 2016, the Union Ministry of Environment and Forest has issued a new biomedical waste management rules of 2016 in order to discard this biomedical waste in a proper manner, to manage them and discard them in a proper manner. So now the National Green Tribunal is directing all the states to publish or to give a report to the CPCB whether they have followed the rules in a due manner in managing this biomedical waste and discarding this waste. Now, let us see about these two bodies, that is the National Green Tribunal and Central Pollution Control Board. This National Green Tribunal is a statutory body. This is a statutory body that was established by the government notification under NGT Act of 2010. The objective of this National Green Tribunal is to provide effective as well as speedy justice, effective and speedy disposal of cases that are related to environmental protection and conservation of forests and other natural resources, including any legal rights that are related to the environment. And it is also entrusted with the responsibility to provide relief and compensation. It has also been entrusted with this responsibility of providing relief and compensation for the damages to the persons and property with regard to this environment. Next, let us see about this Central Pollution Control Board. This was initially established in 1974 under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974. This was given with the powers to implement the provisions under this Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act. Later, this body was also entrusted with the responsibilities of Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981. So now, what this CPCB does is, it will strive to promote cleanliness of streams and wells in different areas by bringing in measures like preventing, controlling and abating the water pollution, and it will strive to improve the quality of air by laying some standards. One of the measure that was taken by the CPCB is National Air Quality Index. This index will measure the air quality with regard to 8 pollutants in the country. So, to put it simply, in order to tackle this water and air pollution, the CPCB will lay down some standards for streams or wells in case of water, and in case of the quality of air, it will lay down the standards to prevent this air and water pollution, and it will also coordinate the activities of state pollution control boards and resolve the disputes among them. The next article is prices slashed for 463 cancer medicines. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of issues related to health. So from this article, now we are going to see about an authority known as National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, which is an independent body that was set up in 1997 under the Department of Pharmaceuticals and the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. What is this organization is for? It is to fix and revise the controlled bulk drugs prices. It will fix the prices and revise those prices, and also the formulations along with the prices, how the drugs are being formulated, even that will be fixed by this authority. This will enforce the prices and it will make sure that the drugs are available according to the Drug Price Control Order of 2013. It will make sure the availability of medicines, and it is the responsibility of this authority to recover the amount if the manufacturer has overcharged for the drug. Then this authority will recover it from the manufacturer. Now this article is all about this authority has reduced the prices for 463 cancer medicines. The next article is an abhorrent and unjust device. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of polity, and it also comes under GS paper 4 under the topic of ethics. So this entire article is dealing with the Supreme Court of India has reversed the death penalty in 2 cases, that is Digambar Vaishnav versus State of Chhattisgarh and Ankush Maruti Shinde versus State of Maharashtra. So from this article we should know about this death penalty or capital punishment. What is this? The rarest of rare doctrine. Here it is talking about a doctrine known as rarest of rare. This has its origin in Bachan Singh versus State of Punjab. So Section 302 of Indian Penal Code, it is the Section 302 of IPC that describes about this death penalty for murder. And according to this Section 302, death penalty for murder is constitutionally valid. Death penalty for murder is constitutionally valid. But this can be prescribed, that is a death penalty even in this case can be prescribed only for rarest of rare cases. And even the Supreme Court has been cautioning that capital punishment has to be used when the state comes into the conclusion that the convict is incapable, the convict will not change even if he is reformed and rehabilitated, then only the death penalty has to be sentenced on the convict. And this entire article has provided what are the arguments against this death penalty. The next article is, will a court mandated mediation on Ayodhya solve the issue? This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance, and it also comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of judiciary. Here Recently, the Supreme Court has handed over this Ayodhya dispute issue to a 3-member mediation panel. So this mediation is a concept under alternate dispute resolution mechanism. For detailed notes of this alternate dispute resolution mechanism and what are all the types of this ADR, including this mediation, were in detail explained in our 12th March core video, and the timing will start from 11 minutes 34 seconds. Please watch that video for this complete details on alternate dispute resolution mechanism. Next article is Congress seeks dismissal of Smriti Irani. This article is all about the opposition is claiming that the minister, Union Textiles Minister Smriti Irani, has misused her MP local area development funds. So this article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. So now let us see what are these MP lad funds. Here it was given Member of Parliament's local area development funds. What are these? This scheme was launched in 1993 as a centrally sponsored scheme. It is a centrally sponsored scheme with a motto to enable the members of the parliament, both elected members as well as nominated members. It is not only for the elected members, this scheme is available. It is both for elected as well as nominated MPs. They can recommend the works for creating some durable community assets, that is to create capital assets based on the needs of their constituencies, like drinking water, education, public health, sanitation, roads, in all these areas, in whichever is the need of his or her constituency, then the MP can use these funds given by the government to develop or to create these assets in their constituency. Who is implementing this? The nodal agency is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is the nodal ministry to coordinate the work under this scheme. What about the funds? Every year these funds will be provided to every MP. Will these funds will be taken back if they are not used within that time period? No. One point here we need to remember here is non-lapsability. The funds that were given under this MP-LAD scheme are non-lapsable. That means if the fund for particular work is not spent in that year, then that fund can be carried forward to the subsequent years. And at present, the entitlement per annum is 5 crores to each MP, and the role of every MP here is only recommendatory. They can only recommend their choice of work to the concerned district authorities. It is the district authorities who will implement the work. The next article is 23 opposition parties move court on EVMs and VVPAT. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of polity. So from this article, let us see about this voter verifiable paper audit trail systems. Before looking into the context of this article, first we should understand about this machine. This voter verified paper audit trail is a method to provide feedback to whom? To the voters, whether the voter has casted his or her vote to the intended person. It will allow the voter to verify if their vote has gone to the correct person, because once a voter presses the button in the electronic voting machine, a paper slip will be printed through this VVPAT machine, and that slip will be visible for 7 seconds. What all it will contain? It will contain two things. One is it will contain the poll symbol and also name of the candidate, so that the voter can verify to whom he or she has casted their vote. And this will be visible for 7 seconds, and later it will be cut and dropped into the drop box in the VVPAT machine. So whether these slips, all these VVPAT slips are being counted? No. Till now, only one random booth from each constituency is being selected, and only from that particular polling booth this VVPAT slips are being counted. Now the context of this article is that the oppositions were seeking that, they were demanding, instead of selecting one random booth from each constituency, at least 50% of the votes has to be counted. 50% of this VVPAT slips has to be counted. This is what is the context of this article. The next article is Government Defends Electoral Bond Scheme in Supreme Court. This article comes under GS Paper 2 under the topic of polity. What is this electoral bond scheme? First of all, what is this electoral bond? It is a promissory note, so that it will be similar to that of a bank note, that is payable to the bearer on demand, and it is free of interest. We know a bank, once we take loan or when we borrow money from someone, then we have to write a note. See, and that note will include the time period when we are going to repay our debt, and also the amount of interest we need to repay at that time. But here this electoral bond is also like that. Here there will be no interest. This is the only difference, and this can be purchased by any citizen of India. This electoral bond can be purchased by any citizen of India, or a body that is incorporated in India, or a body incorporated in India. Then how to use these bonds? These bonds will be issued in multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakhs and 1 crore. And they will be available at specified branches of State Bank of India. And a person, whoever is willing to donate, that person can purchase this bond from any specified branch of State Bank of India with a Know Your Customer compliant account, so that the donors can donate the bonds to their party of choice, and that party has to encash this bond within 15 days in the party's verified account. So now we got the crux of this electoral bond scheme. Any citizen, if they want to give any fund to a political party, then that particular citizen can go to a specified SBI branch and they can buy an electoral bond in this, whether he wants to donate 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh, and that amount has to be specified in the multiples of these amounts only. So he can buy this bond and give it to a political party. Then that political party will encash. Then they will convert this bond into cash by depositing this bond in their verified account within 15 days. Okay, then is it all the political parties can avail these benefits? No, it is not all the political parties. Only a party that is registered under Section 29A of Representation of People's Act of 1951, and the party that has secured at least 1% of votes that were polled in the most recent Lok Sabha or state election, only that party will be allotted with a verified account by the Election Commission. Who will allot them? It is the Election Commission who will allot the particular party, so that the electoral bond transactions will be made only through this verified account. And are these bonds available for purchase all over the year? No, they will be available only for a period of 10 days. Every year in the beginning of every quarter, that is in January, April, July and October. In these months only for a 10-day period, and that time period will be specified by the central government. Along with these days, an additional of 30 days as specified by the central government in the year of Lok Sabha elections. So this year, as we are having the Lok Sabha elections, so extra 30-day period was given to purchase these electoral bonds. So what are the other things that we need to know about this? Here, the essence of this scheme is this electoral bond will not have the name of the donor, so that the political party might not be aware who is the donor, but who is the donor and to which party the donor has donated, all these details will be available with the bank, but the political party might not be aware of who is the donor, so that it will ensure that all the donations made to that party were accounted. They were accountable without exposing the donor details to the public. The next article is Disinvestment Target Within Reach. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. So from this article now we are going to see about three things. One is what is meant by this disinvestment and what is meant by this initial public offering, and also we are going to see about Bharat 22 exchange traded funds. First, what is meant by this disinvestment? Disinvestment means here the government will sell its shares in a public sector undertaking. Government selling its shares in a public sector undertaking to a private company or an individual. Then what about a concept known as privatization? Here there is a difference. Privatization, this means the government will transfer nearly 51% of its shares to the private players, so that here the ownership rights are no longer with the government. But in case of disinvestment, government will sell only a part of its shares, that will be less than 51% of its shares, so that the ownership and the management rights will be with the government only. Then let us see the next concept, initial public offer. What is this? It is a type of public offering where the shares of a company, are sold to the general public for the first time. That company can be a new company or an old company, but still if it is selling its shares to the public for the first time, then it is known as initial public offer. So that here the company will transform into a public company. If in case a new company was started by investing some capital, here no others were invested, a private person has invested in this company and he started it, and now he is not able to run his business and he is in need of extra capital to run his business. So what he is doing is he is offering his shares to the public, so that now a private company has become a public company, and as he is selling his shares, offering his shares for the first time, that is known as initial public offer. Now let us see about this concept known as Bharat 22 exchange traded funds. Before knowing about this, first let us know the concept of mutual funds. Now there is a person, Mr. A, and he has a savings of 50,000 rupees, and he went to a mutual fund company who is a trader, and he invested his amount here expecting some good returns. And this trader, what he will do is he will use this 50,000 rupees and invest in some good venture which is running with profits. So this person A is depending on this company's performance. If it does well, then he will get good returns, and if it fails to do well, then the returns will be low. That means there is no security of his funds. But the government has come up with a concept known as exchange traded funds. This is a mechanism where the funds will offer security, and these were traded on exchanges. So here we can see Bharat 22. Government has listed down 19 public sector undertakings and 3 private companies. So what it has done is, it has listed down all these 21 companies and 22 companies, and it has given weightage to each and every company. So what will happen now is, for example, Mr. A, who has 1 lakh rupees, or he wants to invest through this exchange traded fund mechanism. So what will happen here is, he can't go and say that, for example, let us say it is BHEL is one among them. He wants to invest all his 1 lakh in BHEL through this ETF, Bharat 22 ETF mechanism. This is not possible, because here all the 22 companies were given some weightage. For example, if BHEL is given 5% weightage, then out of this 1 lakh, only 5,000 rupees will go into the BHEL. Rest of the 95,000 rupees will be distributed among the rest of the 21 companies through this mechanism, so that this person's returns will be dependent on the performance of all these 22 companies. And as this is a government scheme, here the return on investment is secured, and also as these are the public sector undertakings, there is a belief that though they are not performing well now, they will pick up and it will result in huge profits. So this is why people invest in this exchange traded funds. Now let's see our today's prelims questions. The first one is regarding this MPLAT scheme. And the next question is related to Climate Vulnerability Index. Try to answer these questions and post your answers in the comment box. And in our tomorrow's video, we'll see a detailed explanation for these questions. Thank you.